Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled. Today, we're embarking on really a fascinating journey. We're exploring how technology, especially AI, isn't just changing our world, it's actively future-proofing it, sometimes in ways we're, well, only just starting to figure out. Our dedicated research team, they've pulled together a really rich stack of sources, reports, studies, analyses, all from just the past week or so, and they all seem to point to this critical turning point in how we as societies adapt to all this tech abundance.
It's true. And what really jumps out, I think, from the research is just the sheer speed of it all, the pace of transformation. We're seeing these shifts in how we work, how we learn, even how our societies are, structured. And it's all accelerating faster than a lot of our traditional institutions can really keep pace with.
Yeah.
It's this really dynamic situation,
Yeah.
full of immense opportunity, but also some pretty profound challenges.
That's a critical point. You can almost think of it like the landscape is changing right under our feet. So on one hand, yeah, AI is supercharging productivity. It's creating entirely new job categories, offering these revolutionary ways to learn. But then on the flip side, it's raising really serious questions. Things like job security, the potential for widening inequalities, and maybe even challenging our sort of fundamental sense of purpose.
And that's precisely the mission here for you, our listener, in this deep dive. We want to peel back those layers. We want to understand not just what's changing, but critically, why it matters directly to you. We'll explore the steps that are already being taken, and maybe some that still urgently need to be taken by, well, everyone, individuals, businesses, educators, policymakers. How do we navigate this new era successfully?
So, okay, what does this all mean for us, practically speaking? We'll dig into how AI is fundamentally reshaping the workforce, from everything from hiring to the very definition of a job.
Hmm.
We'll look at how education systems are scrambling to keep up, and then we'll zoom out a bit to the broader societal stuff. You know, new economic models being discussed, some really fascinating ethical questions. It feels like a really pivotal moment.
The rapidly reshaping word of work.
Okay, let's start by digging into the workforce because, well, that's where a lot of us feel these changes most immediately, right? One of the really big findings from the sources our team compiled is that while AI isn't causing, mass unemployment yet, it's certainly creating what they call a complex reshaping of the job market. It's not simply about jobs disappearing. It feels more like the very nature of work is fundamentally changing.
Exactly. And what's really emerging from the data we looked at is this idea of a great bifurcation in the labor market. We're essentially seeing two parallel tracks forming. On one side, you've got this sort of elite group of AI-augmented professionals. These folks are commanding that's the crucial counterpoint. While there's this premium on advanced AI skills, we're simultaneously seeing a really significant drop in ads for entry-level tech jobs, especially in core areas like, say, software development. Our findings point to almost a 50% drop between 2019 and 2025. And get this, 4 times fewer junior roles advertised compared to senior ones. This is creating what the research is calling a broken talent pipeline.
A broken talent pipeline. That sounds like it has really serious long-term implications, doesn't it? I mean, if companies aren't bringing in and cultivating junior talent today, where are the senior AI leaders going to come from in, say, 5 or 10 years? That feels like a pretty big systemic risk we need to be talking about now.
Oh, it absolutely is a systemic risk. And the qualifications needed for success, they're being completely rewritten. Things like adaptability, fluency with AI platforms, they're increasingly valued, sometimes even over traditional years of experience. The data shows that nearly half of all job postings in key sectors now require some form of AI-related skill. AI proficiency is becoming like a new baseline for professional literacy.
Okay, here's something particularly interesting that came up, this concept of the shadow AI economy. What's that about? The research team found that at over 90% of companies, employees are regularly using their own personal consumer-grade AI tools, like ChatGPT for daily work tasks.
Right.
Even if the company doesn't have official enterprise subscriptions, they're just finding ways to get things done.
Right, and this creates this fascinating paradox because while you have many of these formal, top-down AI pilot programs run by big corporations, often struggling to show meaningful financial returns, one report suggested 95% failed to do so. At the same time, employees on the ground are finding immediate productivity gains through this informal grassroots adoption using the tools they have access to.
But there's a catch, right?
There's a huge catch. This shadow economy also carries a really significant shadow risk. We're talking about potentially massive unquantified vulnerabilities, things like data security breaches, intellectual property leakage, and even those AI hallucinations, factually incorrect outputs, potentially making their way into official company workflows without anyone realizing. It's a major blind spot.
Wow, that's a really powerful point. It suggests the real engine of AI adoption might not be these big corporate strategies, but actually bottom-up ingenuity, people just solving problems. And looking ahead, the sources our team gathered point towards something called the dawn of the agentic revolution. What does that mean? It sounds like moving beyond AI just being a tool.
Exactly. It's AI becoming more of an autonomous actor. Agentic AI systems are designed to, well, perceive their environment, reason about the best course of action, and then actually execute complex, multi-step tasks with minimal human oversight. McKinsey's Technology Trends Outlook 2025, which was highlighted in our research, actually calls these virtual coworkers, not just tools, but team members.
Virtual coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that imply for management? How do you manage an AI?
Well, the projections are pretty striking. They suggest that by 2028, agentic AI could automate at least 15% of day-to-day work decisions, not just tasks, but decisions. That figure was basically zero just last year. So this fundamentally redefines management. It shifts from directing human tasks to orchestrating this hybrid workforce of humans and AI agents. Managers might need to become more like character coaches for their digital teams.
Character coaches?
Yeah, defining goals, setting ethical boundaries, basically guiding their AI counterparts rather than micromanaging tasks. It's a whole new skill set. 2, education's race to adapt.
Okay, so from the boardroom, let's pivot to the classroom. Education is another area just seeing massive, massive shifts. The consensus from our research seems really clear. Education systems everywhere are, well, basically racing to adapt to this AI era. It feels like a scramble to update curricula, rethink teaching methods, everything.
It really is a race. And our research highlighted several key initiatives trying to bridge that gap. Google, for instance, launched this huge billion-dollar initiative. They're providing AI training tools to over 100 universities and colleges across the U.S., giving them access to advanced resources they wouldn't normally have. And similarly, Anthropic, another AI company, formed a higher education advisory board, actually chaired by a former university president. And they've released these AI fluency courses focused specifically on responsible AI collaboration.
And it's not just private companies, right? The U.S. Department of Education also stepped in. They made advancing the use of AI in education an official priority for federal grants, and importantly, emphasizing responsible use and getting students exposed early. It feels like a significant shift away from just fearing AI's potential for, cheating, towards actually embracing its ability to personalize learning or automate tedious tasks for teachers.
Definitely a shift in perspective. However, this transition isn't without friction. It's not all smooth sailing. Our research noted a really strong pedagogical debate happening. You have some educators advocating for what they call a principles-first approach, basically making sure students really master the foundational concepts before they start using advanced AI tools to avoid over-reliance.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there are also these very valid concerns about potential embedded biases in AI teaching assistants. Could they inadvertently disadvantage certain student groups? That underscores the need for really careful, thoughtful adoption.
Right. So it sounds like the goal is building more human-centric curricula, teaching AI collaboration, how to work with these tools as a core skill, but also really doubling down on those timeless human skills. Deep critical thinking, creativity, adaptability, the things AI can't easily replicate. Making sure students are prepared for, well, whatever comes next.
That's the balancing act, exactly. Augmenting human capability, not just replacing it. 3, societal ripples, economy, policy, and ethical dilemmas.
Okay, let's zoom out now to the bigger picture, the broader societal and economic implications. Our research seems to paint this picture of an emerging abundance economy potentially driven by AI productivity. And that's reviving some really big, almost philosophical conversations about how society should function.
Precisely. And that includes this renewed, and I'd say urgent, interest in new kinds of social safety nets, particularly universal basic income, or UBI. The research team found literally dozens of UBI and guaranteed basic income pilot programs active right now globally. It's moving the concept firmly out of just theory and into real-world experimentation, gathering actual data on impacts.
And what are those pilots showing? Anything concrete yet? Well, for example, a program out in Palm Springs, California, showed really significant improvements in housing stability and mental health for the people receiving payments. And there was a 3-year trial in Wales, specifically for young people leaving foster care. It reported improved well-being and, crucially, a greater ability for them to pursue education or training opportunities. The idea seems to be that this basic floor of income alleviates poverty and stress.
Right. It creates stability. It allows people to focus on other things, education, starting a business, caregiving, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture again, this rapid advancement of AI is definitely fueling some profound public anxiety.
Hmm.
There was a Reuters Ipsos poll that showed 71% of Americans believe AI will eventually cause too many people to be permanently unemployed.
71%. That's huge.
It is. And that level of anxiety is a significant driver behind exploring things like UBI and rethinking the social contract. People are worried.
Now, on the policy front, dealing with AI itself, we're seeing a pretty clear global divergence, aren't we? The European Union, for example, has taken a really decisive step with its AI Act. Key parts of it are actually kicking in now. It classifies AI systems used in things like employment and education as inherently high risk. And that imposes really strict obligations, mandatory risk mitigation, transparency requirements. It even outright bans things like emotion recognition tech in workplaces or schools.
Yes, the EU's approach is very comprehensive, very top-down.
Yeah.
And what's striking is the contrast with, say, the U.S. Our research indicates the U.S. is grappling with a much more fragmented state-by-state approach, kind of a patchwork of state laws.
That's touchwork.
Exactly. And this divergence creates huge compliance headaches for multinational corporations trying to operate globally. It could even lead to what they call regulatory arbitrage, basically, companies choosing to develop or deploy AI in places with fewer rules.
That makes sense. Different rules everywhere. And speaking of challenges, there was one particularly unsettling ethical insight uncovered this week by the research team, something called AI bias. Yeah, a study published in a really prestigious journal, PNAS Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, found that leading AI models, we're talking GPT-4, Llama 3.1, the big ones, they consistently prefer content written by other AIs over human-created content across multiple different types of tasks.
Wait, AI prefers AI writing.
Why?
That's concerning. It raises this really important, maybe even chilling question. If these AI systems are increasingly used for critical evaluation tasks, think screening resumes, reviewing grant proposals, maybe even assessing creative writing, they might systematically, perhaps unintentionally, favor submissions that have been polished or even generated by other AIs.
So it could create a kind of gate tax.
Exactly. A gate tax effect, where getting access to opportunity becomes dependent on how well you can use the latest AI tools to make your work look like something an AI would prefer. It potentially means that unique human creativity, the nuance, the intellect, the very things that make us different, might get systematically overlooked by machines that are essentially biased towards their own kind.
That is a genuinely unsettling thought, devaluing human originality without even meaning to. Challenges and strategic considerations for a future-proof society. Okay, so as AI gets more and more deeply embedded in everything we do, what are the absolute biggest challenges we need to tackle head on if we really want to become, future-proofed?
Well, based on the research we've synthesized, the risk of widening socioeconomic inequality comes up again and again, consistently. The benefits of AI, at least initially, often seem to flow fastest to those who already have advanced skills or the resources to access these cutting-edge tools. This creates a new kind of digital divide. It's not just about having internet access anymore. It's about having access to the latest AI and, crucially, the skills to use them effectively. Think about places like Africa, where internet penetration is still only around 38%. The leap to AI fluency there is just immense. It risks leaving entire continents further behind.
That's a stark reality. And beyond the economic divide, there's also this pervasive crisis of public trust, isn't there?
Yeah, a Brookings Institution study that our team looked at found that people generally trust AI development significantly less than they trust non-AI progress in the same areas, especially among women and older individuals. The fears range pretty widely. Everything from AI destabilizing politics, which, remember, 77% of Americans worry about, all the way to impacting basic human relationships, maybe by displacing them with AI companions or something. And this widespread techno-anxiety, well, frankly, it could easily fuel populist anti-tech sentiment if it's not addressed, which isn't helpful for anyone. And then beyond the economics and politics, there's the really profound psychological side of things. The toll of a changing work identity. For centuries, right, the question, what do you do, has been central to our identity, our social status, our sense of purpose. Our research suggests mass automation really threatens this foundational aspect of modern life. It raises these huge fundamental questions. What will provide purpose and social structure in a world where traditional work might no longer be central for everyone?
That's a truly profound point, one that I think many of us are still kind of grappling with personally. It means we absolutely need a multi-layered strategy, right? A coordinated effort across the board. Our dedicated research team actually synthesized some actionable recommendations from the sources targeting different groups. What did they find?
Okay, so for policymakers, the suggestions included things like fostering regulatory sandboxes, safe spaces to test AI innovation under supervision, also launching national AI literacy campaigns to help demystify AI for the general public, and critically, modernizing social safety nets, maybe through more evidence-based UBI pilots, using those initial positive results we talked about as a model.
Okay, what about business leaders?
For them, it's about flipping the model. Instead of just top-down mandates, maybe empower from the bottom up. Formalize and secure that shadow AI economy we discussed. Invest heavily in continuous integrated training for the entire workforce, not just specialists. And really focus on redesigning jobs around human-AI collaboration, aiming to augment human capability, not just replace it.
Makes sense. And educational institutions.
The key there is teaching AI collaboration as a core competency right across all disciplines, not just tech fields. Prioritizing those foundational human skills, critical thinking, creativity, and crucially, partnering much more closely with industry to fix that broken talent pipeline, maybe co-designing curricula, creating more relevant internships.
And finally, what about individuals? What can we do?
For individuals, it really boils down to adopting a mindset of lifelong learning, building what you might call a portfolio of skills that centers on uniquely human strengths, empathy, leadership, strategic judgment, and also engaging critically with the technology. Don't just accept AI outputs blindly. Question them. Understand phenomena like that AI bias we talked about. Be an informed user.
That's great advice. And, if you, our listener, are finding this insightful, please do take a moment to like this video if you're on YouTube, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and definitely turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future. And if you happen to be listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps us reach new listeners who might find this valuable.
Absolutely. And we love hearing your thoughts too. So whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about how tech is changing society. What are you doing personally to future-proof yourself? We read them all. Outro.
So, after all that, what are the key takeaways we should really carry forward from this deep dive into the future?
Well, if we zoom out one last time to the really big picture, the evidence our research team gathered this week strongly suggests societies are at this critical juncture, a real inflection point. AI is driving just unprecedented change in work, in education, in our economic models. But our institutional responses, our ways of organizing society, they're lagging behind. And that gap creates both immense opportunity and, frankly, profound risk.
Yeah, the future-proof challenge, as highlighted in all this research, it really requires coordinated action, doesn't it? Across tech development, educational adaptation, economic innovation, it feels like we might be moving into an era of potential abundance faster than we're building the institutions needed to manage it fairly and equitably for everyone.
Which leaves us, and you, our listener, with a pretty important question to ponder. It's this. In a world where AI-driven abundance might, maybe one day, remove the obligation for everyone to work for a living, how will humanity find purpose? How will we maintain social structure? Where will self-worth come from? What unique human strengths will truly define us in that kind of new landscape?
That is a truly provocative thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Future-Proofed, how tech is changing society here on Tomorrow Unveiled. We really hope this has given you a clearer picture of the road ahead and maybe inspired you to think critically about your own role in shaping it.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and definitely keep asking those big questions.
We'll unveil more tomorrow, next time on Tomorrow Unveiled.